Hello, welcome to Accountable Love, home of the Love Snobs, where love is a group journey. My name is Aziz,
My name is Jerry.
and today we're going to talk about what is an accountable relationship.
Love snobs, love snobs, love snobs. The love snobs have surfaced. You know, the people that actually use honesty to communicate. The genuine friends that refuse to let you feel sorry for yourself. Yes, those people.
You know, the friends that collect your tears every time life makes your eyes rain. The love snobs, the people that don't allow you to settle. Support your dreams, but don't support you sleeping with just anybody.
You know, the friends that are so judgmental they ask you to stay away from negative people and encourage you to surround yourself with positive people.
Yes, that friend. The friends that love you even when you refuse to love yourself.
You know, the love snobs.
Now, anybody that knows us, anybody that experienced us on social media, know us in person, have been through our relationship building sessions, we're accountable relationship builders. And our aim and our goal is to build accountable relationships, to build a foundation for our relationships where we can depend on, that are stable and sustainable relationships. So we want to start off with the first principle to building an accountable relationship is define your core values. Um, so defining your core values is basically attributes that make you who you are. They're a set of attributes that when you walk in any room, they radiate off you. They're something that you're not going to budge. They actually allow you to establish your boundaries, and they allow you to, really have a greater sense of self wherever you are. So you're not spending more time in your relationships worrying about who you are, but you bring who you are to your relationships.
Yeah, and when establishing your core values is really being able to articulate what you want, what you stand for, what you're going to deal with, what you're not going to deal with, and have that understanding with the person that you're dealing with. A
Yep.
lot of times when people within in relationships, it's go with the flow, is predicated on feeling, and then they sprinkle the core values in at within the relationship when there are tough decisions that need to be made. So it's really important to weed out the nonsense at the very beginning by being very clear. And clear meaning that you just don't assume that I know what you're trying to say, or I believe that, say one of your core values is you believe in honesty, right? I can't assume that you and I believe that honesty is the same thing, although we should,
Yep.
based on based on Webster dictionary. But you may take in honesty as I forthcomingly tell you what's going on, right? Another person may think honest is you ask, I tell. But if you don't ask, I won't tell. I'm still being honest, but I'm lying by omission, or I'm not bringing stuff to the table by omission. So it's really important that when you guys define certain words, you guys are on the same page, because if you don't, you're gonna forever not be speaking the same language.
Definitely. We work with friends and we work with couples, and we helping them build their relationships back up if they have issues, or whether they might have a very strong foundation. They want to learn how to truly maintain the foundation for the long haul. We ask a lot of them, what are your core values?
Well,
And
that's the
a lot of,
first thing that's asked.
yeah, and a lot of them are stuck. And we experienced this, I mean, in about 75% of our sessions. So we really want people to start thinking about what's your core values, what do you bring to the table? Like, obviously, we believe in being accountable. So that's one of our strongest core values. So any relationship we're in, whether we're at work, whether, any relationship we enter, any room we enter, we're expecting people to be accountable. We're expecting them to, honor their words. We're expecting them to
Show up when they say they're going to
show up
show
when
up.
they say they're going to show up. We're expecting them to be present at all times. And that's what the expectation is. So I guess accountability covers a lot, but we also believe in honesty. And we believe honesty is linked to transparency.
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're saying you're honest, doesn't mean that you're truthful, because truthful is what's actually happening. But honesty is stating what you believe is happening and being transparent about what you believe is happening at all times, so you can keep people abreast on what is going on with you from day to day, time to time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If
No,
if
I
you deal with somebody that's not honest or not transparent, it is harder for you to actually flourish
connect
a
with them.
relationship with them. Yeah,
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, if you're not transparent and you're not putting yourself in a position where that person doesn't have to second guess what you're thinking, what you believe, then yes, your relationship will flourish. But if you're not being totally transparent and you're not always being honest or not always telling the truth, it's really hard for the person that you're trying to build with to gauge who you are and even know how to deal with you.
definitely.
So you really are giving them tools on how to coexist with you. When you, the more you hold back, the less tools that they have in their toolkit. And that's how most people get tripped up within the relationship. But it's like another, honesty is a big word that people use all the time, but loyalty is another word. What I believe loyalty is may be totally different than what Aziz believes. And but we both say that's a core say we both say that believe that that's a core value. My loyalty could be I'm a ride or die chick, right?
Mhm.
And no matter what you do, I'm gonna be there, good, bad, or anything in between. Aziz may believe that loyalty is I'm not gonna stand by you, doing um things that are not healthy. I'll help, like, we'll have a conversation. I'll bring to your attention. But the minute that you don't want to get help for your behavior, my loyalty to you is to step away so that you can see so that you can see clearly that I'm not supporting you doing the wrong thing, but I will always support you doing the right thing. And I think that most people don't look at it that way. Like when people think of loyalty, they think of you're down with me regardless of what's happening. But as soon as I'm not getting what I want out of a relationship, then who am I really loyal to?
That's
And
the
I think that
first
that's
thing
what
you have. I mean, you made a good point. The first thing we say is define your core values. So in doing that, you have to define the terms of your core values, right? So you made a good point when you say define your terms, because that's loyalty. And when you have a clear understanding, like we're accountable relationship builders. So obviously we have a clear understanding of how to define these words, how to define core values. And
mhm,
loyalty across the board just means it's a boomerang. Everything's a boomerang.
yes.
Everything should be reciprocated in a relationship. So if you're being loyal to somebody who's not being loyal to you, it's not loyal.
Hmm.
So we need to be clear on that. I'm gonna help you if you're sick. I'm gonna help you if you have a problem that's out of control. But one should disloyal to the relationship by performing selfish acts. I have to really decide if I want to be in a relationship. It's not disloyal for me to make a decision, because your disloyal led to me having to make a decision, which is your disloyalty. And my core value is loyalty. So therefore, it's forcing me to now choose my principles over you. So what we're basically saying is your principles should be your number one priority. So you should choose your principles over everybody. You should attract people. You should attract people through your principles. You're not attracting people through your principles, through your core values, then you're going to have hardships in your relationships. And I'm not going to say with attracting people with core values, you're not going to have hardships, but they're going to be more environmental factors. They're going to be
But
more things that are out of your control. They're not going to be things that you can control within the relationship. You know what I mean? Between two people, because y'all share the same core values, y'all have the same destination, and y'all focus on the same outcome.
yeah, that's what I was gonna be clear on. Yeah, you have to have the same core values in order to be successful within the relationship. And
Or
it's
similar core values,
similar, yeah, similar.
or similar core values.
But that's the benchmark. That's the breadcrumbs to when things are not going, when things are kind of not on the, when you guys are not on the same page, or there's a disconnect within the relationship, you can go back to those core values and say, this is what we truly believe in. Let's start from here. Let's bring it back to the basics.
Definitely.
If you ever feel like you're struggling within the relationship, sit back and think, hey, did I ever establish what our core values were individually and as a couple? And or if we already established it, and then you guys are struggling, go back to it and just say, like, hey, we both believed in these four things. if we both went back there, then we should be okay, unless something changed, right? So it's really important to have that foundation and to even know where you came from. You know, the past allows us to be who we want to be in the future, but that's the a part of the relationship, a part of who you are that you can always refer back to make sure that you guys are on the right page.
Definitely.
And that's why it's really important that you know what they are from the very beginning. But if you didn't establish it, is it's you can always take a minute, take a break, not a break, but take a minute within the relationship or some time and say, hey, I want to create a solid foundation for us. We should create a solid foundation. Let's establish these core values so that we can make sure that we have something to refer back to. It's
Definitely.
like
We
people
have our faith. Our faith runs us. We don't run our faith. So the reason why you establish the faith of the relationship, because the relationship is a faith. So the reason you establish the faith of the relationship is because when you're not at your best, you know what to strive for. You always know that that's the benchmark. That's what you're shooting for to maintain for the rest of your relationship. So anytime somebody's not maintaining it, that's how we hold each other accountable through the core values, through the faith we believe in.
You know,
So
it's funny
it's
that you
important.
mentioned that because I was gonna say, you know, Aziz used to always say that when he's in a committed relationship, it's as if he's married, right? Because he believes he has
I
core
am married,
values.
not as if I am
Huh?
married.
You
Well,
are
I
married.
admit
Okay,
I am
sorry.
married.
But you not. But but I said as if is because you legally you're not.
Yeah, legally I'm not, but obviously I am
But
married.
but
What
let me.
I'm
Can I
saying
finish
is,
what I was saying? I was gonna cover
uh,
all of that. Can I finish what I was saying
okay,
first?
do your thing, do your thing.
So he believes that when he's committed within a relationship, he's all the way in. He believes in he has principles that are gonna keep him in check, and he's always gonna make sure that he's putting himself and the person that he's with in the best position for the relationship to succeed, right? And that goes with having those principles. It's like when your core values are like vows, right? It's like you vow to believe in these things, and you don't have to be married to do so. And
Definitely.
I never used to get when Aziz used to say that it I got it conceptually, right? But I still it's still I didn't really truly get it. You
Well,
know what I
really,
mean?
then you didn't get it conceptually. You
Well then
understood it,
I understood it. Yeah,
but you
sorry.
didn't really
You're right.
truly
Sorry.
grasp it.
I understood what he was saying. I didn't get it conceptually
Yeah,
because
because you didn't
I'm
see
like, but you're not
how to
married.
put
But
to practice. Well,
yeah,
you
but
really
what
just wanted to get married. That's the thing.
I just want to get.
You was focused on being legally married.
Well,
So
yeah, I
it's
think yeah,
okay, this dude
it's
is
one of
full
those
of it.
things where you get
You
focused
just
on the
don't want
wrong.
to commit. So
Who said that again?
no, I'm saying what you're thinking is okay. This dude's full of it. He just don't want to commit. I want to
I
prolong.
never thought that you was full of it. I just didn't think that what was the big like in my mind, like what's the big deal? You already say you're committed. Like why not do it, right? But at the same time, like you always said, and you said it back then. I mean, we were young at the time. And it was like my words should mean everything. If I say I'm committed, if I say I believe in these things, if I say I'm gonna be this person for you, then that should be enough.
Definitely.
And that's when it comes when and that's I want to bring it back to the define your core values, because basically that's what it is. You're giving your word. It's a vow that you guys are making, whether it's illegal, like whether you made it legal by getting married, it's still something that you should be able to hold each other to.
The point
And
is
that's the whole
nothing
point.
more spiritual than your word.
Yeah.
So the piece of paper doesn't make it more. It actually makes it just visual. But at the
Yes.
same time, your word should be everything. When somebody knows they could depend on you blindly, they could depend on you a lot more than a piece of paper. But at the end of the day, I still encourage people to get married if that's what they want to do. But if you commit with the intentions to have it for
Commit
a
comes
lifetime.
before marriage, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Commitment is a
Commitment is
mentality.
something, yeah. It's once you give the title of friend, once you get the
Yeah.
even the title of parent, once you get the title of um spouse, you're committed, or partner, you're committed. So commitment is big, and your core values allows that commitment to be binding. So I mean, and it's good that you was bringing up the second point. Basically, meet people that share your values. Now, if I ran into Jerry younger and she's like, I want to be married legally. And I'm like, well, once we're dating, once we're married, once we commit, and once I'm saying this is my girlfriend, this is the person I want to spend my life with, we're working towards building a life together. So we're already committed. She's going to say, no, I want to be married by law. So that's obviously going to be a issue between us because we have to come to understanding on what does it mean to be married? What does it mean to be committed? What does marriage do for us? We need to break all that down because she might change my mind. She might say, okay, listen, I want something happens to you. I want to have the comfort of making sure I get everything I put into this relationship and your family doesn't get it or our kids don't just get it. I have say over what happens with your estate, which legally is what needs to go on. I might say, well, we got a will for that. I might want to draw up a will and do all that and say, nah, I'd rather our relationship stay spiritual. I don't want another person in it. I don't want another person poking their nose in our issues or our relationship. I want to keep it between us. But at the same time, we could have a will that now legally binds you to my assets and vice versa. So we would have that back and forth, but that's a part of the process of truly, I'm not going to commit to a person and then have the discussion. I'm going to have the discussion before we commit when I'm trying to get to know somebody to make sure that I'm meeting a person that shares my core values. And if they don't share my core values, I'm making sure that I'm entering a relationship with somebody who agrees with my core values and I agree with their core values so we can both honor those core values. Like I want to make it clear we don't when we say meet people that share your values doesn't mean going in when you meet them they have your values, they have their core values and you have your core values. But when you sit and put both core values on the table, now you're saying to yourself, we're merging, we're two becoming one. So we have to decide what core values are definite and we can both honor and what core values we can't. And if your core values are your faith and what you aren't going to budge on, then somebody that can't honor one core value, they're not going to probably be a person you want to be in a relationship with, even though they cover a large percentage of your core values. They're non-negotiables.
It's funny that you even brought that up because as I was making a video yesterday, I was thinking that's one of the videos that I want to touch on. Two seemingly good people don't necessarily belong together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I may have positive core values and you may have core values that are good, but they may not be aligned and we may not be able to still coexist. You know what I mean? Like as a couple. Maybe as well, friend. Well, that's exactly where we are in general in life, right? Like we don't coexist as a couple because although I have core values and you have core values, they're not aligned enough for us to be in a romantic relationship together. And I think that that's where we go wrong. And I know I have gone wrong in quite a few of my relationships where I think because they have some of the men that I would meet had core values that were good. And I thought that they had some things that were good. I had some things that were good. How could we not work?
Yeah.
How could we not?
Our core values, we wouldn't be friends if our core values didn't align. So our core
I
values
know,
align.
but I just wanted to give the example of why we're friends, why.
No,
Like,
I know why we're friends instead of partners. Our interests don't align. So we decided to maintain a friendship, but our interests don't align. So though our core values align where I could depend on you to believe in the same things, like I could call you out based on the core values we signed on for.
yeah,
I always can call you out. I always can keep you grounded. You always can call me out. You always can keep me grounded. If we're not doing something that fits what we agreed upon as a core value, we both can call each other out. So we both are in an accountable relationship. But the reason why we won't be romantic is because one, we don't have that same intimate connection. Two, we don't share the same interests when it comes to being in a romantic relationship. So a lot of people think that that's all it is. No, you have to also share the interest. That's why your partner is a notch above your friend because y'all coexist. Y'all are building an actual life together. So y'all do share a large percentage of interests that are aligned, not just like your friends share a little less interest than your partner shares.
yeah.
You know, or it can even be as simple as I want more kids, you don't.
Yeah.
Right. So we're not going to be partners because you have don't want kids and I want kids. So why would I invest in a romantic relationship with you versus just being friends, maintaining a friendship and finding partners that we can actually have the same core values with that want kids and in your case that doesn't want children.
Why I gotta
right?
be the one who don't want kids?
Huh?
I said, why I gotta be the one who don't want kids?
Because you're the one that don't want kids.
I don't want kids.
You don't want no more kids,
No,
is
I
what I'm
don't want any
saying.
more kids.
So
But
I
yeah,
use that
but
as
I
an
just wanted
example.
to,
That wouldn't
but
be the reason, but I use it as an example.
I just wanted to give that food for thought, because I used to think that, I would meet a seemingly good guy and he would be the answer to what I needed in a relationship, and that's not always that's not always the case.
Nowhere near the case, yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, just because two good people come together don't mean that they're gonna make the dynamic couple. They could probably they may be able to be friends, maybe not. But like you said, there's other things that make up a relationship, and interest is one of them. But just because it's two good things don't mean that it's a. I mean, I
Always.
yeah, two good things doesn't mean that it's always going to be a positive in your life.
Definitely. Definitely. Especially if it's a strain to take care of it or you're hindering
Yeah.
somebody else's progress. So you have to make sure that not only do you have the same core values, like we said, the first thing is define your core values.
Hmm.
Second thing is meet people who share your core values. So now we're talking about what core values we have in common. Now we're talking about, can we coexist? Now we're talking about, do we have a future? Now we're talking about, how do we have a future? Do we have a future as friends? Do we have a future as a partnership, being that, we both are attracted to the opposite sex? So we are opposite sex friends, right? So
Yep.
we now have to discuss, do we have a future as romantic partners? And once we realize, okay, we don't have a future as romantic partners, but we do have a future as friends because we share the same core values, that's now through discussion. That's now taking the time to really see if you share the same core values. Where a lot of people go wrong is they just say, oh, I want to be kind, I want to be compassionate. Those are tools. Those are things you use where, when they're necessary, when they're needed. But it's a virtue, but it's not necessarily a core value. You can be compassionate, and you can be caring, and you can be all these things with strangers. Core values is things you want to invest in and bring to somebody's life on a regular basis. So loyalty, you're not loyal to a stranger.
No.
You're loyal to the people you care about. Because 9 times out of 10, if you're loyal to a stranger, they're not loyal to you. There's no agreement there. There's no connection there. How are you truly holding a stranger accountable unless you know that stranger's core values?
Hmm.
So, or associate or acquaintance. So you have to, when you think of core values, think of what binds a connection together, what makes two or more people coexist as a unit on a daily basis. And that's what would decide whether, you share the same core values, because you don't even have to share the same core values with your family members.
Well, you a lot of times you don't.
Yeah. So that's relationships we don't touch on, because we only talk about accountable relationships, which are relationships you sign on for, you consciously sign on for. A family member you don't consciously sign on for. You're
But
bonded
you know
by
what?
that.
It's funny, and I don't really want to deviate from what we're talking about right now.
But you're going to deviate from what we talk about.
But it just hit me right now. Like, the reason why we struggle with family is because we don't share the same core values, but yet we're still trying to maintain a relationship.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason why we struggle with our family members is because a lot of times we don't share the same core values, but we're still trying to have a relationship.
Definitely.
And not I see you every so often relationship, but like, I want to be in your life type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's really a struggle for most people, because they don't they want to be there because they are family, but because they don't share the same core values is a struggle.
Definitely.
And they don't want to give up on the relationship because it's family, but they also don't want to establish that they have different core values either. So that's where it gets a little messy. But I would like to segue into point number 3, which is discuss the goal.
Definitely.
And it's really like, if you have a goal in mind. If I have a sister, I do have a sister, by the way. If my goal with my sister is to make sure that if I want to have a relationship with my sister, the first thing we have to establish is, are we on the same page with our core values, right?
Definitely.
Once we establish that, then we can move on with the next part of the goal and really work on a relationship. a lot of times we foster relationships with people and we don't have a goal. Like we just are living in it. Like
Yeah,
we're just going day to
we go off
day
how they
in
made
this
us
moment.
feel. We go off whether we're attracted to them. We go off whether that, whether they can bring fun to the table. We go off,
Yeah.
we go off things that you can't hold, sustain, feel, depend on. Nothing substantial.
Yeah, no. So then when you're going with the flow and say my sister and I, say my me and my sister decide to rekindle, not rekindle, what, have a relationship,
Hmm.
and we're going with the flow, and then we get our first conflict. We hit our first bump in the road. We're not going to have the tools in place to deal with that. Either we're going to fight through it and take a couple of days and come back, or we're just going to be like, you know what, we're not dealing with this and go our separate ways.
We're gonna use absence. Yeah, a lot of people use absence as the glue to rekindle a relationship.
Yeah,
The problem's still present.
exactly. So it's when you don't really, but if we never establish our core values, that means that we don't really have, like, we never talked about our goal, like what we really truly wanted out of a relationship.
Definitely.
Then you're always gonna hit a bump in the road where it could take your relationship anywhere, and you may not even know where that is gonna go because you guys didn't establish anything, and it takes a lot more time and effort to get back on track, and that's why it's important to have these goals in place. Aziz has met women. I have met men that I ask a whole lot of questions and they're like, what are you doing, interviewing me? Like, I feel like your instinct is a job interview.
But it's the
And
most important interview of your life.
it is, I threw you an alley because I knew you was going to say that.
Yeah. It's the most important interview of your life, man. Like a spouse, friends. These are people that's going to be in your life day to day. They're gonna
But if
help
you,
build you up. So
yeah,
you
and if,
gotta make sure that you are quote unquote interviewing them because when you're in a relationship, you do not want to be interviewing them. You want them to be performing the role in your life and you performing the role in their life. And
yeah,
it's
you can always go back to the goal. If
definitely,
you don't talk about it, if you don't ask questions, if you don't ask for examples, or if they're not even providing examples of why they believe what they believe, or why, whatever the case may be, then it's really harder to hold them to anything. So in order for you to even establish a goal, you have to really know who you're talking to. You have to be able to ask those questions and not be uncomfortable asking those questions. I meet a man, he says, it seems like you're interviewing me. He's not the guy for me. I move on to somebody else, because he should want to answer any question and not feel uptight or uncomfortable with it, because he should be willing to put it out there so that we can see if we could even connect. The more I know, the more he knows about me, the more I know about him, the easier it is for us to make a decision.
definitely. And going back to you and your sister, like you and your sister, if y'all was forging a relationship, one of my core values are find common ground.
Yeah.
So we can't have another discussion. We can't go party. We can't go hang out. We can't go have fun. We can't go on vacation. We can't even watch TV together until we are on common ground. Like I refuse to sit next to a shell. I refuse to sit next to somebody when something's unresolved and just share empty space and just, for the sake of silence, for the sake of silence and using, distractions to overcome the problem. No, we need to be on the same page. So if there's a problem, we need to solve it. Like we have to, it's very important to problem solve. You meet too many people that say, oh, that problem is minor, or I can't believe we arguing over this, or is this really worth it? If it's a problem, it's worth it. And I'm not waiting for it to spiral until it becomes a full blown issue. A problem you solve, an issue might destroy us, an issue might break us, an issue might linger and steal years from my life. So at the end of the day, being on common ground is the most important thing. So yeah, if she's like, oh, let's just take a break, best believe we're not moving forward until you come back or I come back and we are on the same page because being on the same page and common ground is one of my core values. Making sure that we're on the same page. So with a partner, it's a definite, and with a friend, that's a definite. So it establishes a relationship that's built on accountability. Establish a relationship that tells the person, listen, we're gonna have this back and forth until we end up on the same page or end up on separate sides. And most people talk about, being black and white, but the whole point of a relationship is so we understand and we get the comfort of understanding where each other stands, and having those black and whites allow you to depend on the person. So it allows the person to be consistent and allow you to know who the person is when you're talking to other people about the person. You know exactly who they are, exactly what they're going to do. So the goal is always black and white. The only people that want to live in the gray is the people who want to truly get over, and deal with perspective. But we're dealing with best practice. So even in the gray, or even when something's not black and white, we're trying to find black and white because we still have to progress and move forward. So the most important thing is to understand that a commitment is automatic, which is our next topic.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Establish the commitment. Establishing a commitment is black and white. It's saying, I agree to do everything we said we are going to do. We defined our core values. You're a person I met that say you believe in the same core values I believe in. And we discussed our goals. We discussed our destination. We discussed our intentions. We discussed where are we trying to go, and why are we going to be in each other's lives. And we now gave each other the title of friend, or gave each other the title of spouse, or decided to have the title of parent. A lot of people don't talk about being a parent is a commitment. There is abortions out there. There are things you can do to not have children at this moment. We know, back in time, back in the days, you couldn't. Once you had children,
once you got pregnant.
Once you got pregnant, it was a decision made for you. Now it's not. So you're making a conscious decision. That's why with accountable relationships, they're all about relationships that we make conscious decisions to be in. You might have, me and Jerry had a whole back and forth about basically you getting pregnant, and I'm saying you have decisions. We was going back and forth, and I'm like, you do have the decision. So whether you believe you got pregnant by somebody you didn't really love, you got pregnant on.
Okay, you don't have to go there. I was gonna say the argument was that you said it wasn't a choice. I said it was a choice.
That wasn't the argument, because I said that in the context I was using it wasn't a choice, meaning you have other options. So The point is, you are making a choice to actually have the child. You're making a choice at that moment to be a parent, and you're making a choice not to just be a parent, but be the best parent you can be. So that's a core value. That's bringing somebody in your life with the intentions to share core values. That's bringing somebody in life with the intentions to establish a goal to be their parent and to raise a accountable adult, right? So in breaking down children and breaking down childhood and breaking down parenthood, we need to establish the fact that we are in accountable relationships. We need to establish that that's a commitment. So when entering a commitment, it's black and white. Keep that in mind, with a lot of grays within the commitment that you have to formulate in changing the black and whites through the issues and through the problems and through whatever's thrown at you, whatever's out of control that's thrown at you. You have to find black and white. So, I just wanted to make that clear. I know, Jerry, you was sitting there just standing to the camera for a while, but I wanted to make that clear when it comes to,
What do you want me to do? Throw dance? I was waiting for you to finish.
No, I'm saying that it was my fault that I'm throwing. See, this is where I'm saying you get, this is where a sign of defensiveness. I'm saying I was taking up the stage.
But the way you said it was like I'm standing to camera like I'm slow or something. Like you should just stand into the camera.
That's not what I just said. I said I know I have you.
But I'm like, you're talking. So what do you want me to do? Like bust out a dance? Like
oh, I said what did I say? I said I know I have you. It's taking accountability. How could you interpret that any other way?
You said you have me. I
said I know I have you. I know I have you standing to the camera, but I want to establish that.
You said Jerry staring into the camera. I didn't say I know you have me staring into the camera.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I said I know I have Jerry staring. I know I have you staring into the camera.
I think Jerry's just staring in the camera. So
See, that's not what happens. See, defense has you hear things the wrong way. So y'all get to see exactly what we're talking about. Like when you're defensive, you hear what you want to hear. So again, it was my fault, not really my fault, but I just wanted to establish that because I know we supposed to have a dialogue. So I didn't want to take up, too much of the stage.
But but it's on brand. It's usually what happens. So, I mean, you didn't do anything that you didn't already do.
I know.
So
What I'm
like,
doing is I'm
you just
passing
say
you the
that,
mic.
like,
I'm passing you the mic. That's the way I pass you the mic. So take the mic and do your thing. We're talking about commitment, establishing the commitment.
yeah, I think I agree with you wholeheartedly on making sure that you understand and the other people around you understands what your commitments are. It's really about also communicating your priorities,
Okay.
like and what you and what you could take on. So if I like right now my plate is full, I don't really have room for another friend or another activity or another hobby, or I mean, because something would have to give. I would have to shift things around in my life in order to add certain things in. So in order for me to be clear on what my commitments are, I have to make sure that I know what my priorities are.
Definitely.
And I think that, and although it's not something that we really broke down and spoke about this whole time, but knowing your priorities will help you determine what your goals are and establishing your commitment, because without that you can't really establish what you're committed to if you don't know what your priorities are.
And that's
And
why
being
you
honest,
establish the goal, discuss
yeah,
the goal.
and being honest about your priorities.
Mhm.
Say, work is my life, like work is my number one priority. Say it and own it, so that anybody that you meet will know, you know what, when it comes to her job, nothing comes before a job.
Definitely.
And then they can make the decision that they want to deal with a person that believes that nothing comes before their job. It's really about just giving everyone around you choice. Now
Yeah.
you can say it's same with nothing comes before my kids.
Mhm.
Same premise. If you believe, if you some people don't want to deal with somebody who believes that nothing comes before their kids.
Definitely.
So but it allows you to give the other person choice.
And
So
you should clear that all up in stage 2. Meaning
yeah,
that share your values.
yeah.
You should
And
be
and
clear
when it
on that before you start establishing goals with a person. You got to first make sure that this person is somebody that you want to establish goals with. So once a person, like in your case, once a person's saying, "Listen, work is my life," we already not compatible.
Mhm.
We're already not compatible. So a lot of the core values are geared to her, that person, or her core values is geared towards life, towards work. Excuse me. Mine is geared towards my relationships. So I understand that she needs to find somebody who believes the same thing, who sees the value in her job, who sees the value in her job over them or over her other relationships. Because you still can have value in your job, but you still can let your job know. Like my expectation is for you to let your job know. My spouse comes, my friends come, my kids come, then my job. So I'm coming here, I'm gonna perform my duties. I'll make sure I perform my duties to the best of my ability, and you're gonna rate me on my performance. But you're not rating me on overtime, or you're not rating me on how much I'm dedicated to this job after I leave here, because I'm letting you know I'm dedicated to my friends, I'm dedicated to my wife, I'm dedicated to my kids over this job when I leave here. But
But
while I'm there, y'all have my focus.
it depends on like the type of job. Like you may meet a doctor who's on call, like so it doesn't really quite work that once they leave the office or they leave the hospital that they're done with work.
I'm
So
not dating a doctor. I'm
but
dating.
that's what I was gonna say. Like you have to, but again, you have to know you have to know what their priorities are, what jobs they have, or what they have in their lives, and if you're okay with it. And
That,
that's about like Aziz is a job. Mine is if I meet a man who puts every kids in front of everything, that's an issue for me, because it's one of those things that if we're coexisting, we're going to be together, then there are kids. So like you're not dealing with it all by yourself. So it's not, kids have different needs. So of course they're going to be on the forefront of the priority, because it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, right? So they're
but
there.
we're on the same page with what we need to do for the kids. That's
Exactly. You're not on this
or I'm
island by
still,
yourself.
or the person is still your top priority. I
Yes.
just are aligned with how to deal with the kids.
Exactly. And we're dealing with it together. So it's not, you don't have to
Definitely.
say my kids come first. It's like we're doing this together. So
So you should
but
come first. You should
yes,
establish the first thing you understand is I need to be established as a person's number one priority. And that needs to be clear, because me being your number one priority means I'm just your partner, meaning I'm going to support you in all the things that are positive in your life.
Absolutely.
Kids are one of them.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, keep me in the loop and we make decisions together. That's what makes me the
Exactly.
number one priority. My kids are not always making decisions with me, and my friends are not making as many decisions with me as my partner is. So therefore, that's why you're number one priority, because every decision I make needs to be run by you. And every decision you make needs to be run by me to make sure we're on the same page. That's what makes us the top priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the most important understanding. So I always hear people say, yeah, my kids. And I'm just like, your kids, they ain't even sign on for a relationship with you. You signed on for a relationship, a role in their life. You know what I mean? So you got to first see who your kids are going to be before you dedicate every last inch of your time with your kids, and don't have friends who promise to support you through raising kids, and spouse who promised to support you in raising the kids. You know what I'm saying? So understand that's why we have them as spouse, friend, kids, because the spouse and the kids promise to help. I mean, the spouse, excuse me, the spouse and the friends promise to help us with our kids. So that's why they're top priorities, because we all on the same page. We understand what needs to be done, and we all agree on what needs to be done. And
Well,
those
yeah, like
relationships we had before our kids.
well, yeah, it's like you and I hanging out, right? And God forbid I get a call that Camille's being rushed to the hospital, right? And I'm like, I obviously I gotta go, right?
Mhm.
Now, most people that believe that their kids are everything, or that they're on this island by themselves with their kids, would be like, I'm out. I'll talk to you later, right? But when you believe that love is a group journey and you guys are all in it together, you're coming with me to the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, we're moving our whatever we were doing, whatever we're cutting short, we're moving it to that. We're going to the hospital together. We're
Right.
dealing with that together. Then we could get back to whatever we need to get back to, depending on how severe, obviously, the issue is.
Well, I mean, in our case, Camille. Well, you're saying just in general, because in
Yeah, in
our case,
general, like
Camille's
let's
my
yeah, like
kid.
we're not as close as we are. Whatever. Yeah, like you and I hanging out. Like, say we were dating. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like, you're coming with me. You're not like I've been in situations where men are like,
Like you
well,
supporting Camille, who's supporting you.
exactly.
So therefore, I come to support you while you're supporting Camille. So
Yeah,
that's
and
where
that's
love
how.
as a group journey is clear on. It's understanding why you serve the purpose and what purpose you serve in that particular moment.
And
But
people don't realize when they separate the two, when they're like, I'm good, I'm with my kid, which you're really not allowing that person to support you. They kind of they believe that they're not really
you still have
as
the me against the world mentality. You still
yes,
feel
yes.
you
And
still
that
feel
you
single.
can't really pierce. Like, when a person believes that,
They're
it's really
singular.
hard. Yeah, it's really hard to connect with them.
They believe in individuality, which is
Yeah.
another pet peeve of mine. Like
So
I
so
don't
I
believe
realized,
anybody's individuals. So
yeah, so I've come across like those type of encounters with men, and I realized, like, yeah, that is also a pet peeve of mine. Like, how we're supposed to really connect if we can't really truly establish a strong commitment if you're always cutting me out of certain parts of your life.
definitely. So, establish your commitments. And once you are at the point of establishing your commitments, it means that you already defined your core values. You already met a person that you can share your value, that you share your values with, and you discuss your goals and you know where you're going and you're ready to commit. Now, number 5 is start building the life you agreed to build. Once you commit, you already have the title. So you're already locked in. You already said that this is the life we want. You establish the goals. Y'all say y'all share the same core values. Y'all have a clear understanding of what those core values mean. Now it's time to start building the life. All the people that have all this extra time to be watching other people's lives and to destroy other people's lives or to gossip and to do all that other stuff, it's counterproductive. Like we have a lot. If you have 4 friends and you have a spouse and you have children, your plate should be full.
Yeah.
Like it's all about now making sure that they live the best life that they can live. If you're taking time watching other people and you're taking time, comment on other people's shortcomings and really not focus on where you need to go. Obviously we have a job and really it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. So obviously we have a lifestyle. We help people in sessions. So we do help people establish order. But at the same time, we're not here to you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. And that's stupid. And this we're here to build. We're here to hear your goals, hear your plans, hear your core values, and establish a support system around those things. Everything should be about building somebody up. Everything should be about building a life. Everything should be about long-term planning. Everything being sustainable. If you're tearing down and it's not to build back up stronger, then it's counterproductive. And are you truly ready? Are you truly starting to build the life you agreed to build? That's what we need to start looking at, because even our little back and forth, me and Jerry heard what she heard. I'm saying, no, this was my intention. She's still seeing what she heard.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean
what we need to always be clear on is we take a step back and I'm like, what is my track record? Am I very straightforward? Am I going to say exactly what I want? So anytime I'm not being straightforward, 9 times out of 10, I'm either joking or or I'm making light of a situation that
can
can
be an
be,
issue. The thing is, like, you're right. So I did miss that key word, because that key word can change the way the a whole sentence, right? So I missed that key word. But in the past, you used to be a super annoyed with me that you were doing all the talking and I would just be there waiting in the wings somewhere. So I was listening. So when you said what you said,
never on podcasts, but
never on podcast, but just in whatever, like we build so much content. We're always recording. So you guys see a snippet of it, but we're always putting, like, making something. And there's
I'm
been
not going to
times
say annoyed, but I do address the fact that,
I would say,
if
I
I
mean,
am talking, and you're not really giving, your input, and I know that you got valuable input, yeah, I'm motivating you to
yes,
be better.
because like again, like I used to have this situation. My belief was that he said it and he broke it down so well. I don't want to just like repeat what he said. You know what I mean? So I just don't. I would not say anything. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. I backed that 100%. He hit it on. He was articulate. He broke it down. It was a great breakdown, a great example. I don't need to add to that.
But
But
I'm
again,
saying at least say that, right? Because
yeah,
now this is what we talk about.
yeah.
Communication. I can't read what you're thinking. So then you say, listen, that was a good breakdown. You broke it down. I really can't add to that. So, I'm going to move on to this topic.
And
Or I'm
yes,
going to start
and
another
honestly,
topic.
like,
Or I'm
so
going
yeah,
to add something. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, and obviously you have improved since. But the point is, you still see it's me annoyed with you. I heard the word, right? Annoyed, but I'm not annoyed. I just believe in you. So when you're not speaking and when you're not adding something, I believe in you. So I believe that you usually do talk. We're talkers. So if you're not adding something, I already know that what's going on, because you do have a thought. You are a thinker. You are a person who has opinions. So if you're not talking or you're not saying anything, I'm not going to know what's going on. So yeah, I'm going to challenge you to be at your best, and I'm going to challenge you to give me your best. So be clear in what's going on, which is obviously what we establish as our commitment.
mhm.
Be transparent, be honest, and keep me in a loop of what's going on. So if we're communicating, when you're like, are you on your way to go to the store? And they just ready to walk out the door
Yeah, yeah.
without answering you back, what do you tell them? Be clear here. And what do they say? Well, I mean, you'd have heard the door close.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, you don't want to guess.
Yeah,
You want to hold them to words, because we always say, what's greatness? What's security? Words mixed with actions. That's a relationship. They shouldn't be independent of each other. So yes, the action is you are going to the store. The action is you are going to get it done. But the point is, I need to know when you're leaving so I can understand how long it takes you to get back. So tell me, are you on your way to the store? Yes, I'm on my way to the store, mommy. Period. So it's the same with a relationship, any relationship you're in communication. If you're silent after a person talks for a whole 10 minutes, you say, well, I agree with what you're saying. You sum up what they're saying so they clearly understand that you understand what they're saying, and then you move on. We move on to the next
I
situation.
mean, the good and the bad thing is sometimes I forget that we're on camera. So like you're talking and I'm taking in what you're saying, and I really do admire how you put words together and how you like you make things so that people deem so complicated very simple. So you say things in like in the simplest way, and I'm like, wow, like yeah. And I'm thinking about it, not even realizing that we're still on camera and I need to like say what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? So I get caught up in that. So like that's what the deer in headlights looking at the camera, because I'm zoning out because I'm thinking about what you're saying, taking it in, but not saying not saying, hey, wow, that was great, whatever I'm thinking.
Mhm.
So I mean, I've come a
So
long
we
way.
both, I mean, so we both, now everybody can see how her believing in her mind that I'm annoyed caused her to be defensive.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
both
And
thought the
not
best
even
of each
not
other.
even hear what was being really
We
said.
could
Yeah.
have, we could have not had, like, our relationship could have ended or blown up based on that understanding if we never communicated, one, but two, because we didn't communicate.
Mhm.
We didn't explain and express, but we right now y'all get to see that we are starting to live the life we agreed to build. We agreed to discuss things. We agreed to be clear on our message. We agreed to make sure that we communicate effectively. And a part of doing that is be clear what's going on in your head.
Mhm. Well,
And
say
we
what's
both
going on
thought
in
of
your
each other in a positive manner.
yeah.
So it's actually beneficial, and it could have went left based on a belief you have of annoyance that I didn't even earn. I didn't even tell you I was annoyed. So where
I
you
would I
tend to
mean,
go wrong is I'm very straightforward. That's something you know.
I would say okay, maybe annoyed is you don't even use the word annoying.
Yeah,
More
but
frustrating.
I would
More
say I'm
more
upset
more
with what you're doing.
more frustrating. I think was frustrating for you. I like annoying, like using even the word annoying, that's me.
Hmm.
But you more frustrated. So I thought
But I
that you
think annoyed is an extreme frustration, right? Frustrated, I can just be frustrated in a moment. Annoyed is like you walk in a room and I'm like, oh, she going to, like, I already have a preconceived notion of what's going to happen. That's not what's happening. I believe that when you walk in a room, you can be the best person in the room any given day. So that's what I'm expecting. So it's not, it's more of an expectation of the greatest you can be versus being annoyed or frustrated. And if the frustrated part is because you're not living up to the high standard. So the point is,
and
we
living and
agreed
living
in the
and
relationship and
living
the
the life that
commitment,
we
we
agreed to
agreed to
build.
give each other our best, and that's what's expected at all times. So we are example of starting to live, starting to live the life we agreed to build. Love is a group journey. So we want everybody to look at the five components of building
Accountable
a
relationship.
accountable relationship, and understand it. You define your core values. You meet people that share your core values. You discuss goals, the goals of the relationships. Then you establish the relationships. You don't establish relationships until all three of those components are covered. And then you just start living your words with actions every day. So understand them core values are going to dictate what your actions look like. They're going to dictate, are you being held accountable through those core values? So if you're not communicating effectively, and one of your core values is to communicate effectively, somebody's going to call you out. And in that moment, you would have to be humble. Humility would play its part. That wouldn't necessarily be my core value, but that would be a tool. Make sure when you're wrong, you're humble. And not just humble, but you correct it.
Yeah, just not say sorry in the moment and then repeat the behavior tomorrow.
Believe it. Believe you went wrong so you correct it. But this has been, another great Accountable Love podcast.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it was good that we had I mean, again, we'll be lying if we told you that we didn't disagree. And disagreeing is not unhealthy. It's how you disagree, why
Health.
you're disagreeing.
Mhm.
So, you guys were able to see a snippet of the back and forth, or there's some of the
Goes
challenges
on behind the scenes.
that Azizi and I may have. Again, we were gonna once we stopped recording, we were gonna have the conversation anyway. We
Right.
just had it on camera, but Yeah, I think it's important, and that's how it really should go. Like, we should be able to have a conversation with each other and point out where we went wrong and why we reacted the way that we reacted, and be able to course correct, take responsibility, and move on.
Definitely. So we hope that everybody is truly understand what it means to be in an accountable relationship,
Absolutely.
because we all should be in accountable relationships. It would improve everybody's relationships, improve everybody's value, and make the world a lot better.
And you deserve it, and you have to believe that you deserve it.
Definitely. So enjoy,
Bye.
enjoy, enjoy.
Till next time.